When you think about streamer fishing or tying flies for predatory fish, what do you think is the most important factor in creating that fly? Is it the silhouette? Is it the size, the color, or is it something else? Today's guest is going to show us how to tie and fish predator-style flies, and after this episode, you are going to have some key rules to apply next time you're tying or fishing streamers on the water this year. This is the Wet Fly Swing Podcast, where I show you the best places to travel to for fly fishing, how to find the best resources and tools to prepare for that big trip, and what you can do to give back to the fish species we all love. Hey, how's it going? I'm Dave, host of the Wet Fly Swing Podcast. I've been fly fishing since I was a little kid, grew up around a little fly shop, and have created one of the largest fly fishing podcasts in this country. Gunnar Brammer is back on the show to walk us through how he fishes streamers, and he's going to be focusing a little bit on the Minnesota area. You're going to find out why he loves natural materials and why synthetics are a distant number two. You're going to get some tips on casting a big fly, what flies you need, and how to fish them effectively. You're also going to find out about his articulated 2.0 series and methodology coming up. Stay tuned for that. Plus, you're going to find out Gunnar's 5 rules for streamers and how you can apply them today. If this episode is half as good as the first one, you're in for a big treat. Here he is, Gunnar Brammer. How you doing, Gunnar?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Great. Yeah, it's really exciting to get you back on here. It's been like 5 or 6 years since the first episode you were here. It seems like it was yesterday. We talked about, how you got into it, the connections to Kelly Gallup and the streamers. So today we're probably going to jump right into streamers, kind of go strong on this because I think that's a topic that people love hearing about, but also it's a big struggle for a lot of people. So
it's the only topic. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's right. Do you think streamers, do you teach streamers? I'm not even sure on that. I'm not even sure what you're up to more on that end, but do you think it's the biggest challenge for people to learn streamers? Why do people feel it's so challenging?
Because they're fly fishermen and not fishermen.
Right.
Oh, was that a zinger? Did I start the show with a zinger?
Nice.
I'm sorry, you guys. Don't turn me off yet.
Right.
I'll rein it in a little bit. But no, I don't think streamer fishing is hard at all for people who gear fish and for people who fish for predators and understand essentially reading still water or reading big rivers and the right presentation. But when you come to it from the fly fishing perspective, I feel like people are so, told right and wrong. Like dry fly fishing, nymph fishing, there's like right and wrong. Right? Like dead drift, there's right and wrong. Mending, there's right and wrong. And so when they get to streamer fishing, they're kind of like, am I doing this right? And I'm like, dude, just smack it everywhere. There's no wrong answer. Fish are everywhere. Smack the fly down really hard, fish it really fast, and be mean. Be mean about it. And they'll be mean back. And then all of a sudden you start, you'll get reactions and see fish. And people just don't ask questions.
Right.
And I don't mean they don't ask their guide or their buddy. That's all they do. I mean, like when they're on the water, they don't ask the fish questions. Like they want you to tell them what's right or wrong instead of just cast there. It only takes a cast to ask the question. Just cast. Right.
So you cast. So some of the questions you might ask yourself, okay, do I have the right fly on? Do I have the right size?
Or fast or slow, color, depth.
Right.
Are they in the slack? Are they in the current? Are they on a ledge? Are they on the rocks? Are they in the grass? Are they in the eddy? It's like just nonstop.
Yep.
And I think the best way to get over that is wade fishing, right? Because you have to work the water usually a lot slower. You have to be more methodical, and you have to realize that literally every nook and cranny is a potential opportunity. And if you're going to cover even like a mile of river on foot, it's going to take you a long time. And you just have a lot of time to ask questions. And you should, because you'll learn your river really, really, really well.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I was looking at one of your videos there. Yeah, I think it might have been the most recent one, but you came to this pool. It looked like it was a tail out of nice, and you said, this is the spot. You hiked in for a mile, and it was just this nice, slow section below it drops into a riffle. Is that... Maybe describe that little spot there. Is that your secret water? Is that your home water? Is that you're out there?
Yeah, that's right here in town.
Yeah. And where are you? Just for those that don't know, where are you at?
I live in Duluth, Minnesota. I'm a transplant. We've been here about 9 years now. And, when we moved here and we started having kids, well, I kind of drew like a 40-minute circle around my house, and I'm like, okay, that's where I go fishing, right? So if you ever see me fishing, it's within 40 minutes of my house. Like I'm not going anywhere special. And the crazy thing is we have wonderful warm water rivers There's only like two in town. I mean, you have the Cloquet and the St. Louis. I don't want to like name drop, but there's two. Like there's two rivers in town that are within my area. And there's no pressure. I never see anybody there. Nobody's fishing them. Nobody wade fishes them. You know, people use it like a canoe, kayak tubing type river. And it's just loaded with smallmouth and pike and channel cats and walleye.
Oh, wow.
Just loaded.
Yeah.
Nobody's there. It's the best.
No kidding. Nobody's there. Nobody's there. No fly anglers, just nobody fishing.
Nobody. The people who do are in canoes. And so like I made the point, you know, wade fishing, you have to be more methodical. The speed is not in your favor. And you'll see canoe guys and kayak guys will come fishing down the river. It's like, I couldn't care less. They get one cast at my hole and then they're out.
They're gone.
You know, it's like a drift boat's a little different because you might anchor up or you might have somebody on the oars back rowing and slowing you down. So you get multiple looks. You might have two anglers, but like doing a canoe, especially if there's fast water up ahead, you know, they're rods in the boat, paddles on, pay attention.
Ready to go.
It's like they miss 99% of the fishable water because they have to canoe. It's like if you just get out,
right.
Dude, they touch nothing. They literally touch no part of that stream. I could just watch 100 canoers come by and I'm not worried at all. The fish don't know the difference. I have a video. I don't know. It's got to be like 3 years ago. And it's the only time in any video I think I've made in 5 years where I actually capture a canoeist. Like it's the first time there's somebody else in my videos. That's how unpressured this kind of water is, right? And it's
right.
I look up and I'm like, oh, look at that, going right past the good part or something kind of sarcastic. Yeah. And I flip the fly down 5 feet in front of me and a bass comes up and eats it like on command. It was so funny. Oh, nice. And it's like, you know, they're 50 yards off of where I would want to fish anyway. And they're forced into that by necessity of having to navigate the river. It's like they can't even canoe in the fish water. Like it just works to your disadvantage.
So that's one tip right there is get out and get in your feet and start wading to fish out there.
So the best thing, I love this. I told you, you're going to have the impossible task of keeping me under an hour.
Let's hear it. Yeah, go for it.
So I have had the pleasure to experience a drought condition. Now, that doesn't sound wonderful, but even if it's so low you don't get to fish, walk the riverbed, walk the trails, go out there and learn every single hole. Because like summer lows, you're talking like July and, you know, August, I will ruin my fishing spots intentionally and I'll walk to places I normally wouldn't walk, or when the water's high, I can't get to it, just to learn what's on the other side. Because when it's, you know, a medium flow and I can just kind of get over there, what was useless and low and clear has now turned into a nice little duck bucket that's going to have 2 or 3 bass in it.
Yeah.
And I know it's like I have the entire riverbed channel, left and right banks mapped for like, you know, 2 or 3 miles above and below every access that I can get into.
Right.
Because it's like, as soon as it's July and August, you're like, oh, I'm going to fish 2 or 3 days a week and I'm going to memorize this. Because then when it's high and it's dirty, it's like you're so much more restricted, but now you know every little honey hole.
Got it dialed.
Just makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Are these streams that you're fishing mostly, what's the bottom? Is it gravel? Do they change a lot over the years? Or the bedrock slots? What's that look like?
It's all gravel. Most of it, I mean, I keep telling everybody to wade fish. Most of it's not safely wadeable. I mean, it's like ankle sprain territory up the wazoo. You better have felt or bars on your boots. If you wear shoes or sneakers like I do all the time, be prepared to, you know, sprain toes or break a toe or something. Like
really? Is it just super slick and bouldery?
It's super slick.
Yeah.
And the rocks are big. Most of them are big boulders.
Yeah. So Duluth, I mean, you're right at the head of Lake Superior. Is that right?
Yeah. It is the headwaters of Superior.
Yeah, that's the headwaters of Superior. What is that like? There's so much water out there, right? Are you staying in the streams?
I stay where nobody is. If I find a spot where nobody is, that's now my spot.
Yeah, that's where you'll go. Is it hard to find out there? We just went up there and we drove through that area. Well, we didn't even get that far over to the east, but is it busy up there like during the peak times? Are there places you can go and see like, oh, wow, there's a bunch of fly anglers everywhere?
Yeah, like if you want to fish the North Shore during steelhead season, good luck.
Yeah, that's it, right.
If you want to go fish the Brule during the fall steelhead run, good luck.
Yeah, the Brule, right.
First off, when it's fall, I have to cross way too much musky water to go steelhead fishing. I never make it steelhead fishing. I just go musky fishing
Yep.
because
Right.
I,
Why would you?
I
Yeah,
never make
Musky's
it
it.
there. Uh,
Yeah.
and then the spring stuff, man, I used to be so much more diehard fisherman about it. And now it's just like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to be around all the people. And I got kids and family stuff. It's like, I fish when I can now, not when I want to.
Right. Yeah, I
Big
hear ya.
difference. Big difference.
So you mentioned a few of the species. So muskie, smallmouth bass, walleye. Was it channel catfish?
Yeah, channel cats.
Channel cats. What out of all those species? Okay, you got to pick one out in that area. Which one do you go for? You can only pick one.
I mean, I prefer musky fishing above them all, but you can only do it for so long. I have seasons. It's so wonderful. Right? I can only really fish musky in the spring for about a month and a half, and then the water's too hot. So even though I would probably want to, I don't, and I just bass fish until fall anyway. And that's when the rivers are low and clear, and I'd rather bass fish anyway, right? So it's like my seasonal desires, there's no conflict. It's just like, hey, spring, let's go musky fish as soon as it's open for about a month, and then that becomes miserable anyway. So then you go bass fishing, and you get all happy because you actually have slimy hands that smell like fish. It's like,
You actually touched something.
I actually catch stuff.
What is the on the flies? We're going to talk about that a little bit too, fly design. But are the patterns you use similar for all those species? Are you using similar stuff? I mean, obviously bigger. The muskie might be bigger, but are you using the same types of flies with the same action and all that?
I mean, I would say yes, but it's kind of been like I kind of just fish whatever I recently tied, whatever it is. And I had mentioned this. I forget who I was talking with. I was just saying I'm stubborn, right? When I tie something and I'm excited about that thing, I'm going to fish that thing, and I don't really care if the fish want to eat it or not. I I am going to find a fish that will eat it, and that will make me happy. And so I know that's not helpful to anybody because nobody can follow that advice. But just, I mean, fishing's about you.
Right.
It's about you enjoying creation and the environment and enjoying that time outdoors. And so I'm going to do whatever makes me the happiest. And usually that is me just tying on one fly and be like, hey, I'm going to fish this, and they're going to eat it. And trust me, I'm going to find one that's going to eat this fly.
Yeah, right. So that's good advice because basically you're saying stick with it. You're going to eventually find a fish, even no matter what fly you have on there. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think fly design gets maybe a bad rap at being too complicated.
Yeah,
And certainly it's complicated, but it doesn't have to be. And what governs something being successful more often than not is, does it have the right size and silhouette proportions? Is it proportionally food? Like if a fish looks at it, does it proportionally resemble food so that they instinctively react to it? And then are you fishing it as such? Are you animating the lure, the fly, in a way that resembles what you're actually imitating? And if you just have the right silhouette and you just fish it aggressively, it doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
right. So silhouette. So silhouette is the just overall the size, the shape. That's the biggest thing.
That's my biggest thing. Now, everybody prioritizes it differently.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to talk about maybe action and whatnot, but I am a silhouette. That's where I draw the line as the most important bait fish or bugger or crayfish characteristic is, what is the silhouette? And usually that comes down to the artistic proportions of how the fly is tapered. Having a certain head diameter or roundness or width that's tapering relative to the length to imitate a sculpin or a goby or a chub or a sucker or whatever it is. Or it could just be all of the above, at 3 inches, 4 inches, 5 inches. Most bait fish kind of have this similar fusiform silhouette where you can kind of sculpt the fly. And so you could talk about, well, why is it silhouette versus action? Why do you hold silhouette to be more supreme or at a higher level of priority in your tying? And it has to do with the fact that I fell in love with Bob Popovich's bucktail stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I started tying bulkheads on a single hook that were 4 or 5 inches long, and the only action I have is just some bucktail coming out the back. Like no hackles, no flash, no nothing, no shanks, no marabou. Like all the stuff that all the trout guys are really hard on. like even Blaine's Game Changers is like, all I had was like a stick of bucktail, like a stick bait, but it was tied on a bucktail. And it just moved enough. It looks awesome in the water. They have just some subtle life to them. Like they don't look dead. It's way better than fishing like a jerkbait. And yet the silhouette, because I can sculpt the bucktail butts and really get a nice proportional, blunt, fusiform shape out of the whole head and shoulders, it just looks like food. Put white bucktail, tie a bulkhead, flip that thing down and just start stripping it. It's musky food, it's bass food, it's pike food, it's trophy trout food, it's peacock bass food, it's striped bass food, it's bluefish. It's
everything, really. And this is just a bucktail. This is basically just bucktail, white bucktail. That's all. Bucktail. That's what the fly is.
I love bucktail.
So what is it about the bucktail because it's cool, right? It's the natural material with all the synthetic stuff you hear so much about. Why do you still like the bucktail?
Because it's hard to tie with.
Yeah, it is. It is hard to tie with, yeah.
It would be boring if it was the same every time, which is exactly what synthetics offer you.
Right.
It's the trade-off. You can have the same thing every time you pull it out of the package, which is an awesome thing for a beginner or somebody who's learning to have that kind of consistency. You can take off a stack being like, hey, I'm using this much. This is the density. This is how we use it. This is, the technique and the recipe. And they can imitate it and they'll get the same result. They're pretty close. But as soon as you take a natural material and I'm like, hey, I have this beautiful 5.5-inch tail and you have a really gross 3-inch tail, we're going to not tie the same fly. Not only that, but it's not going to respond the same. Mine might have the perfect amount of trapped air in it where I can get it to compress and flare or control the butts, or they're going to have a nice wave to it. And I have hundreds of tails to comb through and find those characteristics. And a beginner's going to be overwhelmed by that anyway. I mean, you're talking about nuance upon nuance of, hey, I've spent $1,000 on bucktail and I've spent 10 years tying with it in order to feel comfortable tying off the cuff. Like, you don't just tie off the cuff because you can't appreciate the nuance of the variation. It just leads to frustration, which is what you got to do to get there. But that's why I feel like the natural materials always come back into rotation. They always cycle back into, whatever's trending or something. And it's because they're always difficult. And so they always have the challenge of, hey, I want to master this. I want to pursue this. And then, man, once you get it and you understand, the castability is better. I will talk about this for hours. The castability of natural materials is so superior to synthetics.
Grand Teton Fly Fishing is a premier guide service and fly shop that has access to some of the most coveted rivers and lakes in western Wyoming. Their simple goal is to share their valued resource and have you experience a native cutthroat trout rising to a single dry fly in the shadows of the Tetons. You can check out Grand Teton right now at grandtetonflyfishing.com. Let them know you heard of them through this podcast. Don't let the chill keep you from your next big fish. Heated Core's Next to Skin heated base layer is your secret weapon for staying warm and comfortable during those early morning fishing trips or late season adventures. Engineered with advanced heating technology, this base layer keeps you toasty all day long, ensuring you can focus on what really matters. Gear up with the Heated Core base layer and make every cast count this season. And is that because, I know deer hair is kind of hollow a little bit, right? Or I guess elk hair, but why is that? Why is it that it's better? Because you would think the synthetics, they can make this whatever they want to make.
Sure. So obviously we're talking about streamers. Keep it in that context.
Yeah, streamers.
And we're talking something decently large flies, like let's just say 5, 6, 7. Of course, you get bigger, like 10, 12, 14-inch patterns for musky.
Yep.
The problem with the synthetic is that first off, synthetic materials are usually going to be crimped, right? That's how they get the volume out of them. So they take a uniform material that's made out of plastic, and they will essentially heat it up and crimp it so that it has some sort of zigzagging pattern. And the degree of the zigzag will give it volume, right? So all those zigzags push off each other to create volume. Now, when you cast this, the air has to go around all those zigzags, and it slows it down tremendously. So when we think about casting, one of the things we're always trying to do is we're trying to create the most castable pattern, which is a pattern that doesn't interact negatively with the fly line. Now, something that's only slowing the fly line down is a negative interaction. I don't want that, right? It's literally pulling and taking energy away from this entire system that's trying to deliver a fly. And so if you're adding air resistance, that's a problem. But the nuance of this whole shindig is it's not always a problem, because let's say you have a sock and you try to throw a sock, right? A sock is only air resistance. It's not going to go very far. Well, if you put a small rock in the sock, now I can chuck it across my yard, right? So when we have these synthetic flies, usually the best way to make them castable is to put them on a big, huge gauge saltwater hook. This is, I think, where the whole idea of synthetics cast better comes from. It comes from, you took a wind-resistant material, you didn't really know it, but you haphazardly put it on this huge, blue water hook, like 4-aught for tuna or something like that, and you're like, wow, this casts really well. Well, all you did was put a rock in your sock.
There you go.
And so you put a rock in your sock, so the two balance each other out, and you can cast it really well. But one of the problems is as the fly gets, let's say, big, like you want to try like a 8-inch hollow fly or like a beast or an extended body bulkhead, you start to get into pike and musky fishing. You're trying to imitate large forage like suckers and chubs. You can only add so much weight, and usually the best triggering mechanism in this whole shindig of streamer fishing are flies that hover. They're flies that are neutrally buoyant. They're flies that suspend and change direction, in which case adding weight is now not becoming beneficial because you're getting the negative action impact on the fly. And so when we tie flies weightless, or we're trying to tie flies out of neutrally buoyant material to be fished on, say, intermediate lines or light sinking lines, then we want hang time, we want glide, we want hover. Well, now I don't have any weight. I don't have a rock in my sock. And so when you go to the natural, understand the natural is usually going to be perfectly rounded in diameter, no zigzag, and it's going to be tapered, meaning it's literally going to get, it's fat at the butt, skinny at the tip, like a fly rod. So as the wind and air travel across this material, it's literally kind of accelerating. It doesn't have to follow the zigzags, and it's not uniform in friction as it goes, but it's able to accelerate around the material, on top of the fact that when that material gets wet and absorbs a little water weight, and you pull it out of the water, it all slinks down. There's no air resistance to begin with. So now you take like a freshwater hook, like a 4-aught or a 6-aught, something that's not blue water, crazy heavy, and you have this completely slicked down natural material that has no zigzag to it whatsoever, and its own water weight that's absorbed in the hair becomes the rock, if you will, in the sock. It is the most superior material for tying a weightless suspending pattern.
That makes total sense. Yeah. So you have, and what is the hook? What's your typical 4-aught hook would you be using? Like, is there a brand or a type of hook?
Yeah. I think the old Partridge Attitude streamers were sick. The Attitude Extras, the Universal Predators. A-Rex, has the TP610, the Trout Predator. I think the 4-aught in the TP610 is almost perfect. The 6-aught gets a little bit, and it needs a slightly heavier wire. But they came out with the TP612. I know this is like product numbers, but
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, the 612 is the Trout Predator short. That is musky perfection. I love that hook. The 4-aught, 6-aught, they're just sweet.
That's it. Okay, good. So
yeah,
so that's good. So we hit on a little bit. I mean, Ken, I wanted to ask you about casting because I think that's all another thing that comes up. Like, God, how do I cast these giant flies? But what you're saying, that's a good reminder. It's like the fly is a big part of this equation, right? Getting the right fly on that. What is the right fly? Let's take it to a species. You mentioned musky. Maybe let's talk smallmouth bass for a second. What is that pool we talked about at the start where you went out to your perfect pool? What fly line are you throwing there? Is that like a dry line, or what do you typically have for bass?
So I fish, you can give me any species on the planet. I only fish 3 fly lines, which I have a box in the garage. It's probably got 90 fly lines in it. I'll have to take a picture. It's nuts, all the different stuff I've tried over the years.
Really?
But I like ideas. I like to pursue ideas. So if I see potential in something, I will buy it and screw around with it. But all of this has come down to, as I learned fly line taper and the purpose of it and the engineering behind it, I fish Rio's Elite Predator. That is my all-time favorite wade fishing fly line. I fish Rio's Outbound Short, which is my favorite stillwater line and huge fly line. Like if you're going to fish beasts and stuff, that's preferable over the Elite Predator, even though they're kind of designed to do the same thing. They have opposite tapers, which we could talk about, but it makes a huge difference in big fly carry ability at distance. And that's really relative to casting. Really relative to casting. And then if I'm going to fish something fast sink, I'm going to fish like an Outbound Custom or like the Rio Striper line, but something that's just level. I just love a level, heavy, fast sink that I can cut the head back, right? Because if you give me a fly line that's tapered, I'm not going to cut it and mess with it. But if you give me a level line, now I can start to screw around with the grain windows and how long it is and how easy it is to slip and shoot and do all the fun stuff. So those three, Elite Predator, Outbound Short, and Outbound Custom, are really the only three I fish. And I like, you could, I love Rio. If you're a different company, dude, just look at the taper diagrams and take those tapers to whatever company you enjoy and support and all that. It's the taper that it is. I mean, the taper is what makes it happen. And right. Rio has a lot of really good tapers, but those three, that's the bread and butter.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So that gives us the line. And then,
sorry, when you were asking me about that hole and you said something about dry, were you talking about, are you fishing a sinking line or a triple density line or a floating line? Because I went straight to kind of the different.
No, I was thinking what you said. I was thinking big picture, like the three lines. Yep. I love simplifying it. So that helps. So we got to simplify it. And now I'm just thinking more like, yeah, you're on the water, you got your fly. Again, we're experimenting. We're out there, somebody is going to learn on their own and we're going to say, get out there. But what are you doing there? So you make your cast, where that little slot is where those fish are holding. Are you typically casting across and down and then stripping it? Talk about that. What action are you putting on the fly?
Everything.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, you're doing it all, depending.
So it's like, I've worked that hole from the top down. I've worked it on the right side. I've worked it on the left side. I work it from the bottom up. Usually if I work from the bottom up, then I swing on the way back down. Again, I ask every question. And so when I'm walking up to the hole, I'm walking up and I'm standing at the tail out. And so what you have is you have a pinch point, you have a riffle section. It kind of has a nice little cut or gouge that then turns into this pool that rises up to this wonderful tail out. And typically you'll get a lot of small bass at the back that'll be like eating bugs and stuff. I mentioned as soon as I came up, I was like, oh, someone just ate he just ate a mayfly, or I saw a fish rise or something like that. Because bass do that. I mean, you could dry fly fish bass if you wanted. They're not that picky. I guess that's what people do with boogle bugs. Everybody knows that. Anyway, and so I'm going to start to kind of fan cast the back of that hole. And obviously I'm forced to cast upstream, retrieve down, just by context of where I'm standing. But I'm going to work that with, short casts. I probably start like 20 feet or something, not very big. And I'm going to make a fan cast. It's essentially like if you were to fish still water, you find a productive spot, you hit spot lock or something, and you're going to fan cast. And then you're going to move over 50 feet and then fan cast and then move over 50 feet.
What is the fan cast exactly?
Yeah, it's blind casting, right? Because I'm working a tail out, which is essentially a large pocket of consistent water. I'm going to cast, let's say straight across, and then I'm going to cast at 11 o'clock and then 10 o'clock and then 9 o'clock and then 8 o'clock, right? I'm going to work the full clock spectrum of what's visibly open to me. And each one's going to be like a different angle of attack because there's not structure. It's a tail out. It's just a pool. And then as I start to move up one of the sides, the right or left side, it doesn't really matter. Well, now I'm going to throw one straight up at 12, which is going to be, parallel to the bank. And then I might come off at 1, and then I might come off at 2, and then 3, right? So I'm going to clockwork out from that as I start to walk up slowly. And part of this that people have to understand in my context, because it won't be explicit unless you've seen the video, my water clarity is a foot or a foot and a half. And so I am forced by necessity to almost never target specific structure unless it's like a side channel and I can actually see a log or a boulder or a little, a pocket or something. But usually I can't. My rivers have so much tannic stain to them that the best way to approach it is honestly just to walk at a slow pace, work the full spectrum, from noon down to 6 or whatever, noon down to 3, and let it swing out, and then just walk up slowly and keep rinsing and repeating that because I can't actually be more specific. I can read the water. I can see the current. I can understand, the current velocities and what fish are going to hold in to feed, or okay, that's way too fast. Nothing's going to hold there. That's too soft. That's slack. They're not going to hold there. Oh, here's a perfect amount. Kelly Gallup would call it soft water, right? It's like, it's water that's moving, but it's not fast. It's not hard. It's not super flowy. It's consistent. It's even. It's soft. As soon as you learn to identify what soft water looks like, that's kind of the biggest thing that's telling me I need to cast there and ask the question. Really, because I don't know the depth, I don't know the bottom structure, if there's a boulder or a log or something that they can hold on to. I can only identify what is probable based on current velocity. And when you can identify what is soft water, well, you can stop asking a lot of dumb questions.
Yeah, right.
My encouragement's to ask all of them, but eventually you're going to learn which ones are more intuitive and which ones are the better question to ask.
Right. So for smallmouth bass, if we stay on those for a second, you're looking for that softer water. You're not really looking for fishing like riffles or any of that faster stuff.
My fish don't hold in the fast stuff.
Yeah, they don't.
They love a run. There'll be an entire school that'll just hold out in a run.
And a run, right? Yeah, they don't like the fast. Yeah.
I don't find them in the holes unless it's like off of a side channel. Like if the river come down and there's a little let's say the main current is fast. There's this weird little nook off to the side where the current gets cut in half and it drops down 2 or 3 feet. 100% chance there's a bass in there. 0% chance there's a bass in the fast water.
Right.
I'm walking through the fast water looking for those little nooks and crannies that, the difference between 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, 2.5 feet. Oh, there's a bass there. It's like, and you learn that by walking in low and clear and just walking around. You have to just walk across the river back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Cause I can't see the bottom. It's like, you don't know.
So you're just covering, you're being systematic about it, covering all the water.
I wish it was different. I'll tell you what, I went to visit my brother-in-law once and I stopped on the bank of the Mississippi in Grand Rapids, which is like an hour and a half north.
Oh yeah.
And I could see the bottom and it was like 6 feet deep. And I was like, are you serious? Like, is this what it's like for normal people to go fishing? Like I have gone fishing with the most ridiculous chartreuse neon green fly before and stripped it into my guide because I couldn't see it.
Wow.
Like all the way to the front guide and just ripped it right into it. And I was like, good grief, this is not good. Like
that's your water. Now I'm going back a little bit now on more your history, but what was, because I want to get into the fly design and give people a little heads up on that, but was it Kelly Gallup, right, was your first influence in this fly design stuff? Is that talk about that a little bit. Give us a reminder on that and how your design got to where you are now with what you do.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it was my junior year of college. I got to work for Kelly and moved out to Montana, lived in a trailer and fished the Madison River.
Yeah.
For about 4 months.
And where'd you come from? Where were you coming from? Where were you living before that?
I went to school at Michigan Tech, so I was up in Houghton, Michigan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Michigan. Yeah.
And that was wild because I didn't know anything and I was horrible. And I told Kelly I didn't know anything and he told me that was fine. And I just went wade fishing every single night for 4 months straight. And that's what taught me what soft water was. And, it's like, obviously I had trophy water to learn it on.
On the Madison?
On the Madison.
Yeah.
And this is, it's right below Quake Lake.
Right.
It's like 2 miles below Quake Lake. So it's in between Ennis and West Yellowstone.
Right.
And it's just beautiful white water. And it's above it's the wade only section, right? So from like Quake down to Lions Bridge, I think is wade fishing only. People can take a drift boat, but you have to get out of the boat to fish. And one of the coolest things that I ever got to experience was, must have been like the first week of June. We had crazy runoff coming out of the mountains. The rivers, climbed 1,500 CFS in about 3 days. By every person's consideration, driving over that river, they would have said it was blown out. You couldn't fish it. And what's the most beautiful thing is every single person drives across Reynolds Pass to go into Idaho to fish for salmon flies, to fish the salmon fly hatch.
Yeah.
And the streamer bite on the Madison, if you give it like 2 or 3 days for the fish to get used to the new flow, It's off the charts insane. It was like, like when you see like a Field and Stream magazine and they like put a circle where every trout should be. That was real. There was a trout where they said a trout should be. It's like you just like walk the river, smack a fly down with like a 5.5 foot cast, 3 inches from the bank, 6 inches from the bank.
I like a dry
5 inches behind the boulder. Like it was the most ridiculous thing. And you just like 16-inch trout, 17-inch trout, 18-inch trout, 14-inch. They just out of the woodwork to try to eat these sculpin patterns that are like 5-inch black pieces of meat. It was nuts. So that was kind of I went from being a really bad fisherman to being a really spoiled fisherman really quickly.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Yeah.
And you were around Kelly and all of his, the sex dungeon and all that stuff. You kind of got to.
Yeah, I always wanted to be like a competent fly tyer, and I sucked at it for, I don't know, ever, for like 10 years. And then I got Kelly's DVD. It was like called Streamers on Steroids. And it was the first time I had a visual, like, someone took me through it start to finish visually. I'd never had that. I had never taken a class, like the pictures in the books didn't do it because I had missing gaps of information. Right. I don't like kids don't understand that anymore. Like we have YouTube.
All right.
Like it's not a problem. Yeah. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, like I don't have to go from, A to D. I understand A, B, C, and D now. Like I see the whole progression. I saw it on video. And so I just ripped all of Kelly's stuff off. Like all I did was tie Kelly Gallup variations, Boogeyman variations, Sex Dungeon variations. And I would just, it turned into something where when I started my tying company, looking back, right, this is what hindsight's wonderful for. But when you look back at kind of all the stuff the trout guys tie, especially in the Russ Madden kind of style of it's essentially articulated buggers with a head, right?
Right.
And what everybody does was they would tie the articulated bugger, but then they'd wing it with something like craft fur. And you're like, oh, it's a ganga,
Oh, yeah.
right? Or like Arctic fox. And you're like, oh, it's Strollus's headbanger. It's like, it's still an articulated bugger. They just took a wing material that somebody hadn't used yet, and then they put a head on it, whether it was laser dub or craft fern, a loop. And I'm not trying to take anything away from that because in my own journey, those jumps aren't intuitive. Like when you're walking through it step by step in real life, like I have so many patterns that are so similar, but you only see the similarity when you look back like 4 or 5 years. And you're like, why didn't I think of that? That was so obvious. But in the moment, you're like, man, this made a huge difference. Oh, dude, Arctic fox is sick. How come nobody did this before? It's like, well, if you just skeletalize the recipe, it's like marabou, hackle body, and a wing. Marabou, hackle body, and a wing, and then a head. And you can change the head to whatever you want. Wool, deer hair, lead eyes, no lead eyes, synthetics. And so you start to kind of like see the different segmentations of a fly, whether that's like tail, body, wing, head, and you can honestly substitute nearly anything. And as long as you scale it appropriately, you understand how it's going to build so that you get the right taper and proportions, you're going to get a pretty successful fly.
Right. Okay. And you mentioned marabou. Well, you talked about a couple of things. We talked about the deer hair, but I'm trying to get a picture of what is the sex dungeon? Is that?
It's a stacked deer hair head over lead eyes.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, so it's stacked deer hair. It's been 5 years since we talked. Have there been any changes in the streamer? Have you changed your style at all? Is there new stuff out there, or is this pretty much?
Oh, I've gone totally off the walls, saltwater East Coast striped bass style.
Yeah.
Anybody who's kept up with the YouTube knows that I very quickly became a disciple of Bob Popovich's and spent, I don't know, probably the past 7. So I guess this would have been part of our last talk. I bet the past 7 years I have dedicated almost everything to bucktail fly design based off of all of the innovations that Bob Popovich brought to the table.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And so I've gone, like I don't really tie articulated anymore. I've gone almost all the single hook. I do use naturals, but the big thing I've been working on is adapting my old Kelly Gallup style patterns to a new shank hook layout that allows them to be single hook, but still have the same tieable space so that the recipe's not actually forced into being changed. And so you can take the same recipes, but superimpose them onto a totally different chassis layout And I call it articulated 2.0. Nobody knows about this. I haven't made any videos about it because life right now is really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hopefully, Lord willing, in 6 months from now or next year, I'll get to kind of bring this idea to light. But when the videos you've referenced so far, those are all fishing the Hot Fuzz 2.0. They're all fishing the Season Geezer 2.0, the Triple Sculpt Daddy 2.0. It's all part of a series where I was trying to build up a little bit of hype around this idea of, hey, I don't fish articulated flies, two hooks connected by a wire joint anymore. I can't stand fishing two hooks. It just doesn't fit me. And that wire joint has driven me absolutely bonkers as a tire for years. I hate putting that joint in at the vise. But then on the water, they get kinked and they get weakened they break and they fray and they foul, and trying to find a way around that. It's like hybridizing articulated flies with game changers, but you take the same recipe that the articulated fly was. That's 2.0 in a nutshell.
It's time to talk about something that elevates your fishing experience. Stonefly nets. Nestled in the heart of the Ozarks, Ethan, a master craftsman, dedicates his skill to creating the finest wood landing nets. They aren't just tools, they are works of art blending tradition and craftsmanship. Every time I set my Stonefly net in the water, it's not just the fish that catches my eye, it's the beauty of the net itself. These nets are tailored to your fishing style with options to customize the size, handle, and even the intricate wood burls. They are a perfect mix of functionality and aesthetic appeal. And let's talk about the memories. Just like Ethan, many of us cherish fly fishing as a way to connect with our past and creating lasting memories. Stonefly nets are more than just nets. They are part of our story, each cast and every cast. Are you ready to make fishing trips unforgettable? Visit stoneflynets.com right now and discover the difference a handcrafted net can make. How do you get the articulated makes it longer? You got a hook out there long. How do you tie your same length of the fly and get the hooking? Are you getting short strikes and stuff like that with this style?
The only hang up is that I've had to test it all on smallmouth bass, which are kind of notorious for smashing the head.
Oh, okay. Well, they T-bone. Don't a lot of the predators T-bone stuff? Isn't that how are they getting hooked that way? Or they coming from the side?
Well, yes and no. It depends a great deal on how their mouth is shaped. So if you look like pike, musky, and trout, and you look at their teeth structure and how their mouth opens when they eat something, their teeth are designed essentially to kind of poke or stab or hold prey, wound prey. They're like, you would identify them as a slash and grab style mouth type. Whereas if you look at bass, you look at snook, you look at tarpon, that would be like a bucket mouth where they use literally the suction of dropping their jaw to draw in water, turning a baitfish's head into their mouth so that they can eat, even tarpon will eat a huge thing head first. Striped bass will eat, a 14-inch mullet head first because of their mouth shape. A barracuda's not going to eat a mullet head first. He's going to slash it in the middle because his teeth are designed to slash and grab. He's not worried about sucking in water like that. He's going to cut, pierce, injure, and then consume. Whereas the bass species, bucket mouth style species, use the water suction to orient a baitfish's head so that they can swallow head first and kill. So when I'm taking something that is essentially a articulated trophy trout style pattern, which is very much more slash and grab, and then I'm catching a 12-inch bass on it, you'll see in those videos, I'm like, oh, he missed it. Or like, I'll say that just kind of like off the cuff. And it's like, man, if it was articulated,
beyond,
maybe I would have got him.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to target 12-inch bass either.
Right.
And so it's like, where do you, as the designer, it's like, well, shucks. Because if it was a 30-inch pike, that was game on. If it was a musky, game
hooked.
on. If it's a 16-inch bass, he'll fit the whole thing in his mouth.
Yeah, that's right. That's actually a good thing. That's actually, you've created a fly that keeps the small ones away. You don't have to worry about the small ones.
It's like, but do you let that deter you? Because sometimes the recreational guys, it's like every fish matters and every fish makes you happy. And it's like, well, shoot, if I was fishing a woolly bugger, I would have caught twice as many fish today.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, you're a musky fisherman too. So my guess is your style, you're not as worried about catching numbers of fish.
I told you I'm going to fish the fly I tied on and I'm going to make them eat it. That's the game. The game that I am there to play is I'm going to make you eat this fly. I'm not here to figure it out. I'm not here to pattern fish. I'm not here to be the most successful fisherman. I'm here to enjoy myself, which means you're going to eat it.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. So this is it. So we're simplifying it here, I think, a little bit, which is cool. What would you tell if somebody was going to get down at the vise? Just look up a Popovic style. I mean, you can see them all. They're giant. They're all bucktail. Like, what would you say if somebody wanted to tie some of these or pick these up? What would they go in the store and buy? Or could they?
Yeah. Do you narrow it down more? Pike, musky, bass, size?
Yeah. Let's keep on the bass. I think that's a good topic to stay on.
Yeah, if I was going to go, I would probably take a 1/0 TP612. I'd run the like a short shank, but thick gauge. 1/0 would probably get you by just fine. I would grab 2 bucktails and I would select them by hand. And you're just going to look for 2 different lengths of tail. You're going to try to find something around 4.5, which is actually pretty common in shops, and something around 3.5. The 4.5 is going to be your tail and your mid-body section, so you're going to have a longer out the back, and then you're just going to go to that 3.5 to finish it, so it gets shorter and denser up front. It'll get a nice teardrop to it. You're just going to tie either bucktail deceivers or bulkheads, and then to get a little extra length, you can either do like the strung saddle, which is super easy, or just a little flash tail, like a flash tail whistler, just a wad of like original Flashabou in silver out the back. Mm-hmm. Dude,
that's it.
That's it. And you could tie it, you could tie it half and half style. You could tie it Clouser style. You could tie it Bob Pop's bucktail deceiver style, bulkhead style. The bulkhead's going to be neutrally buoyant, suspend. Bucktail deceiver is going to be about half and half, but the hook weight will slip it under. The Clouser's obviously going to bottom dredge it and jig it. You could tie it bend back if you wanted it weedless and weightless. It's infinitely versatile. And it's like a 4.5-inch catch-all. It's like a finesse minnow, essentially. It's like fishing a soft plastic that's 4.5 inches long.
Right. Okay.
Not soft plastic like worm, like a plastic minnow molded type.
Yeah,
bait.
minnow. Right.
A sluggo. I'll give you a sluggo.
A sluggo. Okay. So now we're back to your pool. So on the line again. So what was the line? So you talked about 3 lines there on that pool that day on that video. What was the line you were using that day?
So that was Rio's Elite Predator. It was a 6-weight. I believe it was the Float Intermediate Sink 3. So they got 3 different line densities.
Oh, yeah, Float Intermediate Sink 3. Okay.
The beautiful thing about that line, you got like a 32-foot head. So it's got a really short, compact head for streamer fishing, which is what you want. Your head length should be 35 feet or shorter. 30 is about ideal.
Yeah. Okay.
The taper diagram on it is a spay taper or a heavy rear belly or a triangle taper. It's all the same nomenclature, essentially, right? What you're describing is that out of that 32 feet, the heaviest part is the closest to the rod's tip.
Yep.
This creates control and accuracy and stability because as it is unrolling, the taper is helping the energy towards the fly.
Right.
And so it's a really stable, controllable, accurate line that doesn't feel clunky or bouncy or splashy.
Right.
Lands down really well, but because it's compact at 32 feet, it can handle a payload. And so I'm casting a 5.5-6-inch fly on a 6-weight line. I'm carrying it probably 40 feet and shooting it out to 50, 60 feet with a rod from the 1940s.
Right. I was going to say that rod. What is that rod you're using there? Looks like a bamboo rod.
There's no markings on it. I couldn't tell you what it is. It's old. It's got a full Wells cork on it, but it's seen better days.
Is it bamboo?
It's glass.
What's cool about that rod? I love seeing that because right away when I saw that, we've had a bunch of casting episodes recently, and one of the guys, I've mentioned this before, one of the guys we've had on was Chris Korich, and I'm not sure if you know Chris, but he's a casting instructor, and he's the guy that took Maxine McCormick, who was that 13-year-old girl who won the championship, the world.
Cool.
She was like the greatest caster. But what he said, the take-home message, and I've been saying this a lot because I'm trying to preach it because I think he's basically said the fly fishing space went into this nuclear arms race with like faster rods. But what he's saying is like you don't want a super fast action rod, especially if you're new. You want a rod that bends all the way into the cork because then it allows you to feel the line. So he feels like the fly fishing industry has really got that wrong. And so if it sounds like, and that's what he said, the people that are winning championships right now are fishing with 1980s rods, not new rods these days, right? So it seems like that's the same rod you have.
Yeah, dude, that thing's ancient.
Yeah.
So I love glass. I was talking to a friend yesterday on the phone, and it became really clear to me. There is personal preference. People like different things and different feelings. But I would fish. I don't even know where I'm going with this. He was talking about new technology. He was all excited about some of the technology that these rod companies were talking and coming out with. And I essentially said to him, I was like, look, like I agree that that's exciting, but taper is what determines whether a rod is successful or not at its intended job, and then roll it out of whatever you want. Because I love glass. I fish my grandpa's 1961 Wonder Rod all the time. I have, like a Blue Halo Zen glass. Love it. I have that 1940s fiberglass. That's what I fished for the whole season. I just fished a 1940s fiberglass fly rod. Like I don't need some $1,000 rod to catch fish. Like,
and what do you like about that 1940s rod when you cast it?
So I like. So you talked about how, feeling it through the cork. I have a really slow cast. I don't like a punchy, jumpy cast. I have a really slow cast. I like a really long kind of lateral movement of my hand.
Yeah, right.
I think it's fun. It's like dancing. I like to be a part of the casting experience. To me, it's not about efficiency. Like I want to enjoy what I'm doing.
You have like a bigger arc.
Yeah.
Typically. Yeah.
And so that's, as my stroke length increases and my arc increases, I need a bendier rod to match my style.
Yeah, right.
And so when I fish a fast rod, it's not that I can't, I do it all the time. It's just that I have to think about it and be consciously aware, because I'll throw tailing loops because I have such a long kind of stroke with such a big throw arc. And so I can very easily fish something that's 50 years old and it just fits me. And I have no problem casting it 70, 80 feet either. Like people, it's like, I'm pretty sure 30, 40 years ago, people could still cast really, really well.
Yeah, they could.
When you put a modern fly line on it, I think the fly lines have what changed the game. The fly line is what makes streamer fishing possible. The whole point of that video, the title of that video is the line is mightier than the rod.
Oh, that's right.
And I meant it kind of as a joke, but it's like people, when they get into streamer fishing, the first thing they think of is, I need a new rod. I need a streamer rod.
Yes,
I need to get a 6-ring.
right.
I need to get a
I need something heavy duty to cast so I can cast these
Absolutely,
big things.
you don't. What you need is you need a fly line with a 30-foot head that's designed to throw streamers. You could put that line on any rod ever manufactured ever and cast streamers really well on it.
The big stuff, you can cast 6-8 inches with that.
Heck, I was fishing a 6-inch fly on that rod.
Yeah.
With a 6-weight line. It was nothing. If you gave me the same rod in a heavier rod class, I could throw beast flies. I'd go musky fishing with it. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I like that style, so I'm drawn to it. And I think the history's cool. And I think part of it's me. I don't like where the industry's going. I don't like the idea of, if you just had this rod, you'd catch more fish. Like, it's a lie. It's a marketing lie. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that. And it's like, if I could just change your perspective on that and just, hey, what you need to do is practice casting in your grass 1 hour, twice a week for an entire summer, and then enjoy fly fishing for the rest of your life. Like, just invest one summer into being better. And then that skill won't really diminish that much. And you'll just have gained perspective and understanding and skill. And you'll have invested time that makes it more valuable. But buying a rod, that's the cheater's way to getting better. And honestly, it's not going to help you.
It doesn't work. No, it doesn't. And it's not going to help you, right? You got to, like anything great, like to get good, you just got to get your hours in. Do your reps.
And it sucks.
Do your reps.
It sucks because I know the rod companies, I know half of them, they're well-intentioned. They want to make the best fly rod ever.
Right. Well, and I think there's some situations where
there's truth to that.
Right?
When you're truth.
Oh yeah, when you're at a high level and you're on the saltwater flats and the wind's blowing, having that super fast or that specific rod is going to be important. Probably, right? There's some situations, but for most people, you probably don't need that, right? In a lot of situations.
Right. I don't want to belittle it because I understand the advancements have done a great deal of good. but the marketing behind it has done a great deal of damage.
Yeah.
And it's
They're-
like,
they're
you don't
good.
need that new rod to catch fish. You just need to stop sucking at fishing
Yeah.
and get better at casting.
Yep, exactly.
But it's, the
Yeah.
ancient saying is it's the Indian, not the arrow. It's you.
Oh yeah.
You need to practice. That's okay. Own that.
Yeah.
Own that.
Yeah. Good. Well, let's I want to talk rule. You had these. It's kind of funny because you had the rules of streamer fishing, which was you're kind of joking in there. I think you had rule 21, rule 37. So I'm not even sure if the numbers, what's going on with the numbers. But
Arbitrary.
could you break it down and say, again, just let's say streamer fishing and say, what are a few rules? Are there any rules? Are there things that somebody listening now should know? We've been talking about stuff just kind of high level, but are there rules? Like, why did you say that first? What gave you that idea to put down rule number 21?
I didn't want to do rule number 2 because I didn't want people to think I was being super rigid or intentional.
Right.
And so I went from rule 1 to rule 21, hopefully so that everyone who was paying attention realized instantly it was meant as a joke. Like, okay, let it go. There's
right,
not.
But you did
rules.
say rule. You did throw the word rule in there, which means something.
I don't know if it's clickbait, but it grabs people's attention.
Yeah, it does.
And I don't think there's rules, but I definitely think there's sins. Let's call them that, right? There's peccadillos to streamer fishing that beginners ignore, and they do it to their own detriment. And usually they're frustrated by it. So it's like, perfect example, right? I think rule number 1's like always fish it to your feet or something. Something like that. Always fish the fly to your feet. Maybe that was rule 21.
That's a good rule.
But I have a buddy who's never been streamer fishing before, but he has a trout fishing background, a fly, dry fly fishing background. And typically when you dry fly fish, you're casting out to where you want the fly to land. You're going to get a drift. And then once it starts to drag, you pick it up because it's not fishing anymore. So you've ingrained this habit that you're only fishing when it's out there. And as soon as something changes, it's wrong, and the fish aren't going to eat it, and you pull it out of the water. But that's not how streamers work. And so we're fishing together. He casts out. He starts to retrieve, and then he picks it up. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like bass, pike, and musky, largemouth, everything will follow. They will tail it. And what's really interesting is not only do they follow, which is a great reason to leave it in the water, but fish they're not as spookable as some people think. So in the first video, I'm literally talking and I'm explaining this lie of water between me and the bank. And I flop the fly down 5 feet in front of me as I'm talking, and I catch the biggest fish of the day right there. I didn't cast, I didn't slip line, I didn't carry line, I didn't work it, I wasn't animating it, I wasn't stripping it, I wasn't trying to catch a fish. He was just 5 feet in front of me on a rock shelf. And I had stood there long enough that he wasn't spooked by me. He didn't think I was a threat. He didn't care. Obviously the water's a little dirty, so he's like, whatever. And my fly just swings right over his head and he smashes the crap out of it.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's opportunities like that where the beginner thinks the fish are out there.
Yeah,
right? The thought is they're far away from me. I have to cast. I have to strip it. I have to fish it. Once it gets close to me, they're not going to eat it. There's nothing. Why would something? And of course, it's like, well, if you're standing on the bank, sure, don't fish it. It's like, but if you're in the water, keep the fly in the water. If you're walking, keep the fly in the water. If you're fishing it, fish the fly all the way to where you're standing.
To where you're standing, yeah. How do you, when you make that cast out there, how are you fishing that fly all the way to where you're standing? Once you get in, maybe out of the current, are you doing stuff with your rod, stripping a certain strip? What are you doing there?
I wouldn't say I've abandoned Kelly's jerk strip. I use it once in a while, but like with a soft rod, it's not an effective technique. The rod doesn't have the power to drive the fly. And so that's one of the big things around Kelly's rod design is he has one of the only rods designed around fly animation.
Which is like a super, what is it? Is it a soft tip with a powerful rod, or what is his rod?
It's definitely kind of a tip flex style with quite a powerful butt and heavy medium. And it's because he wants, the tip to drive the fly and then recover quickly back to it. But
that's right.
You have to have the nuance, right? So the tip has to be soft enough to have nuance. But when you have like a soft midsection and a soft butt with no recovery, it's kind of just like mush.
Oh,
If you
gotcha.
try to use a jerk strip
Yeah,
with glass,
it's not recovering. You're just it's
no,
like yeah, gotcha.
you're just pulling it at that point,
Yeah,
right?
you're
The
pulling it.
rod cannot snap. The rod can't whip the fly. It can only pull lethargically.
Yeah.
So there's no difference essentially between that and stripping. I fish a lot under arm, right? So I'll throw the rod and reel up under my arm and fish hand over hand, like saltwater style, really fast. And I'll animate flies with mends. There's no right and wrong. Sometimes I'll just stop it halfway through the retrieve and let it swing out, and then I'll just twitch it in the current. I'll just leave it there and twitch it. If you cast across, you can fish up real slow and you can be quite methodical about where fish are and really hang it in front of their face and tease them and kind of do cat and mouse and give it to them and pull it away. If you're casting upstream, I mean, you can only come down and it should be a little faster than the current. So you got to be pretty quick on that's a hard thing for beginners to get used to because it's fast. You got to be stripping real fast to keep up with current.
Yeah.
But like I said, I cast the whole spectrum, 12 o'clock down to 6.
Yeah, just cover it.
And so you come up on that hole, you'll find where you're going to stand. And I'm usually casting like 1 or 2 to get to the top of that pocket, and I'll fish it downstream fast. And then I'll start casting at 3 and I'll kind of work across that hole, probably underarm because it's enough slack water. And then as I start to get down to 4 or 5, I'm going to let it swing now up onto that ridge line. And then I'll just dead stick twitch upstream real methodically. So it's all context driven.
Yeah. And you're, like you said, you got the sinking line, the fly that's neutrally buoyant, so it's kind of down below the surface. Are you, like, how far on those bass do you think your fly, how deep is it? So let's take it to that pool again. How deep do you think oh yeah, so you're kind of under there. And that's just the fly line getting it down. You're letting it sink as it's swinging across, and then you're doing some stuff as you pull it across.
Yeah. So like all the 2.0 streamers all
the
have,
2.0.
like medium lead eyes. They're like 0.6 grams.
Okay.
The hot fuzz is weightless. Those fish, you can see them boil on it. That's like 2 inches under the surface. So their presence behind the fly, everything, they are waking behind it. It's so cool to watch. But that line will, it'll get it a foot down, which in 3 or 4 feet of water is plenty. Those fish are looking up. They're always looking up. Moving 2 feet up in the water column's absolutely nothing for a fish. It's not like in a lake. Let's say you're in a lake and it's 10 feet deep and you're fishing a fly a foot deep. That's a problem, right? Like that ain't going to work. But in a river that's 2.5, 3 feet deep and you're a foot up, no big deal.
Yeah, that's really gotcha.
Absolutely okay. No big deal.
Nice.
The walleyes, that's a big deal for walleyes. Walleyes don't go up.
Oh yeah,
walleye.
And we haven't talked walleye yet. That was one. So walleye that's the one species that I love. We've talked a little bit about it, but I know it's a popular sport fishing, not in conventional. Guys love it right there because I think they're good to eat. But are you fishing walleye just as much as you're fishing smallmouth bass throughout the year?
No.
Okay.
It happens accidentally depending on the fly's design. So, I tell you, I'm going to fish whatever I tied. And so part of that experimentation process is I have to adapt my day and my presentation to the fly because the fly might not come out perfectly. It might not do exactly what I wanted. I might have to fish it faster or slower or weight it more or whatever. So it's like you get to the water and let's say I'm working on a design to kind of be dead drifted or swung. Maybe it's tied on like a shank stinger steelhead style. I take it to the water. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm really going to have to fish this kind of slow and deep. That didn't work well on the jerk strip. I moved it too fast. It rolls up on its side. I really got to let it hang. Right. So I immediately look at the fly and I'm like, okay, I can't fish the way I thought I was going to. This fly demands I fish it the way it wants. So I'm immediately locked into trying to figure out how to maximize the fly. And so then maybe I'm going to dead drift and swing this fly in the bottom. And because of the line and reel combo I brought, okay, it's going to get down about 3 or 4 feet. So I'm going to go and fish this hole and that hole or whatever. So I walk downstream to those holes that I know are deep enough. And that's where the walleyes inevitably show up, is when I'm fishing something slow and methodically on bottom where they don't go up because the bass will beat them to it every time. And it turns out they're almost always in the same water. Like the walleyes love tailouts. They're at the same tailouts that the smallmouth bass are on. They're just eating leeches and stuff that are like right in front of their face. They won't go up for a bait fish. But if you take like the same pattern, like a clouser, you could tie that same bucktail deceiver clouser style and fish it on the bottom, and you'll start catching walleyes instead of bass.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, because they're down deeper. That's with walleye.
It's like, so the only difference essentially between the two is, the spectrum of the water column that they occupy. It's the only difference kind of in their niche
Oh,
space.
it is. Yeah.
It's like bass are like, hey, we'll take the middle. You guys take the bottom. Deal? They're like, yeah, sure. Like, we're lazy. Do what you want.
Right.
Sounds good to us.
Okay. Nice. This is good. Okay. Well, let's, and I do want to try to get a couple more of these rules out of you here. But before we do, I want to take it away here. This is our getting into our wrap up segment here. But I'm going to do a listener shout out. And today I had a really cool Alex. I ran into Alex just randomly at one of the shows. He works for Benchmade, the knife company, and we were just chatting about knives. I was up there looking at these amazing knives and all this stuff, and it turns out he was a huge fan. He's listened to all the episodes. So I want to shout out to Alex with Benchmade, who we connected with today, which was amazing. And today, we always do a listener shout out. This is presented by Mountain Waters Resort. We're heading out Atlantic salmon fishing this year. I've never fished for Atlantic salmon. We're heading out to the northeast part of Canada. And we're chasing it. So I want to give one big shout out to Mountain Waters Resort today in this episode. But for you, the question is, and this is our random segment. First off, I know you're busy. You got a lot of stuff going, but have you been looking out? Are you doing anything outside of Minnesota? Do you have anything you're thinking about or you've been in the last few years? Is travel or are the kids keeping you? Because I know for me, the kids don't allow me to travel much. I've got a couple of young kids. I think you're the same way. Is that how it's looking for you?
Right now, it's definitely the kids. Well, right now, it's the cancer stuff.
Yeah, right.
But once that's behind us, I think we're going to try to go up to Wollaston and do some pike fly fishing.
Oh, is that up north in Minnesota?
Yeah, it's in Manitoba.
Oh, Manitoba. Okay, cool. Yeah,
I think it's in northern Manitoba.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah, that's right. You're not far.
At least I have to drive to Manitoba in order to fly in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, gotcha.
That's where I have to get to.
Man, I know there's so much country up there. You guys have just unlimited from where you are. But okay, so we got that. Let's again, we talked Kelly a little bit here, but talk about if somebody wanted to take the Bob Popovic's stuff more, what resource do you talk about? His book?
Yeah, dude, Fly Design is the best book.
And it's Fly Design. Why is it the Fly Design FLEYE? Is that actually, does that make sense to you?
I'm pretty sure Bob did that because the eye spot is such a critical feature on a lot of baitfish patterns.
Oh, there you go.
He kind of did it almost jokingly, like
That's
fly, right? It spells the same.
Okay. Is he a joker? Is Bob a joker? Jokester?
He's a salty guy, man.
Is he?
That's hard to say.
Yeah.
I don't know why he did it, but I know that the prominence of the eye in the baitfish patterns, especially in the East Coast, is something that he wanted to imitate in his fly patterns.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
That's where it comes from.
All right, good. So we're definitely going to throw some Bob Popovic's in the show notes, some resources there, and a couple random ones for you, and then we'll jump out of here. Do you want to jump into a few of these rules, or what do you think? This rules segment? Do you have a couple rules you could throw in here?
Off the top of my head, it's going to be pressure, but
it'd be pressure, yeah. Well, you mentioned always fish to your feet, which I think is a great rule, like for just fly fishing, right? Yeah. I mean, that's a good one.
I think the second one was always leave your fly in the water, especially if you're moving, right? Because when you're wade fishing, if you're walking upstream, downstream, you got to go around a little eddy. Just throw it in the water, drag it, swing it. If you're talking to the camera, leave it. If you're showing your friend how to do something, put your fly in the water. You will catch so many accidental fish. It'll blow your mind.
Nice.
Nice. The line is mightier than the rod. Understand.
What about tying? What about a rule for tying these streamers? Are there any rules for that? Like the stuff you tie?
The rule of 1/3 head, 2/3 body.
Oh, 1/3 head, 2/3 body.
So if you just look at kind of fusiform baitfish, that's the proportion that most of my flies are tied to. So as far as the thickest, widest, most shouldery part of the fly is at the 1/3 mark behind the head.
Behind the head. Gotcha.
And then it tapers out to a tail from there. And so 2/3, tail, body, 1/3 head and shoulders is that's food, right? We talked about that's food profile.
That's your typical bait or whatever that fish is. They all kind of have that, like whether it's a sculpin or they all have that bulky little head area, right?
Yeah.
Kind of whatever. What about the rule for choosing the right deer hair for these flies? Are there any rules there?
Good luck with that.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
hard because you're the type that goes through like hundreds of deer hides to
yeah, yeah,
find the
yeah.
right one.
So almost everything we're talking about specific, just so we're
Yeah, yeah. This
accurate,
is
is
just streamer,
bucktail, right? We're
bucktail, right?
talking about
Bucktail,
the white-tailed deer's bucktail.
whitetail deer, bucktail.
Um,
Yeah.
and what I would encourage you to do is to not. I'll give you one of Bob's rules. That's what I'll do.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
Never take a long hair and cut it short, right? So if you need
Oh,
short
wow.
hair, use short hair.
Get short hair. Yeah.
And
So find the short hair. Yeah.
people undervalue it because obviously when you're tying big flies, everybody wants long hair because you need the length. That's understandable. But then people will do sacrilegious things like take beautifully tapered long hair and they'll cut it short to meet a shorter need. But now you've cut the taper out of it. You've cut the compressible butts out of it.
Oh,
You've cut
right.
the ability to trap and flare and sculpt the hair out of it. You've
Yep.
lost the progression and action in the tips because you distorted the taper of the material. So use the length hair relative to the need. Never manipulate the length of the hair. Get other tails.
That's awesome. And what about, are you stacking this hair ever?
It's mostly done in a 360 format. So I'll stack it on top, shove my thumb into it to get it
Oh,
to
right.
move around
Yeah,
the hook
yeah,
in
yeah.
a 360 format. But you can high tie, low tie. Totally. You can high tie, low tie. You can do like Bob's got a 3D fly, right? Where you're doing short belly stacks with long back wings to create the silhouette that you want. Something like a bunker belly. They have a really nice deep
Oh, okay.
profile belly, and the short hair allows you to sculpt it, but it also doesn't follow around the hook. And then the long hair out the back gets your taper. It gets a nice long shallow sweeping back section, but it also helps stabilize the fly with the longer back wings. So
Yep.
I don't know why I just said that. I forget what you asked. but that was my answer.
Yeah, good, good, good. Well, let's keep this going. So the rule,
High tie, low tie. We were talking
yeah,
about high tie, low tie.
yeah, high tie, low tie. What about a Kelly Gallup rule?
A Kelly Gallup rule.
Does he have any rules?
Always fish it before you walk through it.
Oh, yeah, always fish it.
That's
a
a
good
Kelly
one.
Gallup rule.
Always fish it. Yeah, no matter what. Like he loves the.
So like people, when they walk up to a river, right? We talked about this.
Yeah.
People look out. They think the fish
Right.
are out.
Yeah, they
Before
do.
you walk through that water to get to that good spot that you think is good, it's probably not. You better fish through what you're about to walk through because you're
Right.
probably going to disturb the best streamer water. You're just going to blow right through it. That's Kelly's point. You're going to walk through the good spot to get to the bad spot. Fish before you walk.
That's it. Okay. Well, I think that's probably pretty good. Do you want any other rules you're thinking about here
That's a decent list.
that's pretty good. I like 5 is a good number. So, okay, I got a couple random ones, then I'll let you get out of here. And one is I saw a video. This was a couple years ago. I think I saw it. You popped up on social media shooting a gun, and I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. What's going on here with the gun? So, are you into the target practicing? What was that gun? Did you do that quite often, or was that like a one-off thing?
No, kind of new to it. I picked it up maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And, part of it is I'm a husband and a father, and I want to be a capable protector. I also feel like I'm fairly level-headed.
Right.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I want to be capable of protecting life and protecting innocent people and being able to say, hey, like, I'm a civilian, but guess what? These people are under my care. And so I kind of took a, defensive kind of tactical
Oh, you did. You took a
route.
class.
I've had
Nice.
Pistol 1 and Pistol 2 training from Warrior Poet Society and John Lovell. Pretty big on the EDC, kind of everyday carry, Glock 19 stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Is that the gun? Is the Glock, or what is the good gun, the good carry gun?
I mean,
Are you into that? Or are you like the fully? Because I've had some people tell me about.
well, it's like fly rods, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't really care about the nicest new. I want the most reliable
Right.
thing. Glock 19 is the most universal, ubiquitous, most military police firearm.
Oh, it
Gen
is. Yeah, that's
3
your
gun
standard.
ever produced
That's your
ever.
Glock.
It's 100% reliable out of the
Okay.
box. Most aftermarket accessories you could ever hope for. Like, forget it.
Okay. And is that the style of gun, the Glock, or is that the name? Is the Glock the
Glock
name
is
of the
the manufacturer.
Yeah, that's the
right,
manufacturer. Yeah, Glock. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
19's the compact size.
Oh yeah, 19. Okay. So you got the Glock, and yeah, no, I mean, I totally hear you. I feel like I'm the same thing. I mean, I've grew up hunting a little bit, right? Deer hunting. So we always had guns around, and I think my dad, yeah, we had pistols too, but I was never really into it. But I think, yeah, you have a family and you realize like, there is stuff that could happen. So you feel better about having something like that around.
I get a lot of crap for carrying in some of my videos. Not a lot,
do you?
but enough.
Yeah, you do.
And
Like
it's
people
like,
are saying like what? Just
So I
kinda-
have a 10 mil, a Glock 20 that I carry usually in a shoulder holster when I'm out on the river. And I don't think people understand that Minnesota has the highest wolf population out of any state in the lower 48.
Oh, really?
And that entire population is in the top third of the state where I live and go fishing. And we have a pretty healthy bear population. Well, guess what? They're all in the top third up here too. In fact, I get my trash broken into about 10 times a year. And
oh, no kidding.
I've
These are black bears?
Yeah, 3 or 4 black bears a year I probably see. And me and my dog walked up on one in the middle of the neighborhood at like 6 p.m. last year.
Yeah, really?
So when I'm, a mile and a half from my truck and nobody knows where I am and I'm up a creek in the middle of nowhere, you're darn right I have a firearm on me.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you feel, and if nothing else, it makes you feel a little bit better out there in case something happens,
Yeah, it takes one mama bear who I piss off and I don't come home that day. So
yeah, definitely. Yep, cool. All right, and the other one I was going to check it. I love on your videos again too. I occasionally see some music out there. What is that? To remind us again. I think you're into some of the heavier stuff, or what's your? You got any tunes you want to give us?
Yeah, I am a Christian metalhead. Big time.
Oh yeah, Christian metalhead. So metal, just like hard rock, loud.
Well, no, I mean it's metal, man, and it's not like someone like there's bands who have let's say Christian beliefs and they make like positive music. This stuff is like preacher core. You'd call it preacher core. It's like super heavy, reformed, doctrinally dense, like For Today, Sleeping Giant, like old school cool metal bands. That
is that the name For Today, Sleeping Giant? Is that the name of the?
For Today is a band. Sleeping Giant's a band.
Yeah,
Living Sacrifice.
Oh, good. Okay.
Saving Grace. These guys are intense, but it's
perfect. All right, I'm gonna grab some of this from Spotify. Hopefully, we can find some of this out here.
Those are my jams.
Okay, yeah, we'll throw that in the show notes. Awesome. Nice. Well, you're right, Gunnar. From the start, I do. It's going to be hard to because we could talk. But I think what we're going to have to do is just bring you back on more regularly, so we can kind of keep this rolling out, something like that. But yeah, man, this has been a lot of fun. Definitely appreciate what you have going. We will send everybody out. We said it, Gunnar Brammer on social, or check out your YouTube channel. Yeah, man, does that all sound good to you? We'll maybe stay in touch, looking ahead, and maybe put another one together down the line.
Yeah, right on. For future talks, we got to talk about two-handed musky casting.
Oh yeah.
We got some custom lines that we're working on for those rods, which are going to be sick.
Okay. Yeah, two-handed musky, like we're talking how.
Like 10-foot compact overhead casting rods.
Yeah, and you're doing that because you can't, because it's just too heavy. You just can't cast single hand.
The swing weight on your wrist when you're getting to
it's too much.
A 12 weight, 500 plus grains and a 14-inch fly. It's just not mechanically possible.
So 500 grains. I was just listening to
500 is nothing. That's the start.
Oh, really?
The two-handers go like 600, 625, 750. Like they go way up for that, and that's a 30-foot head. I mean, you're talking some heavy gear.
A 30-foot head with 700 grains.
It's mind-blowing. But you can cast. You can cast a wet sock.
Wow. Yeah, that's heavy.
It's cool.
That's heavy. Yeah, the guys went in, actually, Tim Arsenal, who just won the spey casting champion at Spey-O-Rama, I think they're casting somewhere in that, at 14, I can't remember what the length is, 14, 15-foot rods, whatever they are. But they're casting like up to 1,100 grains.
Sick.
But they're longer, I think the lines are a little bit longer, but still, it's just heavy stuff, right? But awesome. Well, it sounds like a good topic for the next one, Gunnar. So yeah, we'll be in touch, man, and thanks again.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
All right, if you get a chance, head over, check in with Gunnar at his YouTube channel. You can do that, or on Instagram, either Instagram or YouTube, Gunnar Brammer. Check in with him, get some streamer tips, let him know you heard this podcast, and we'll go from there. If you haven't already, if you're new to the show, please follow that show, that plus button. You'll get the next episode delivered right to your inbox. And that next episode is going to be a good one. And that next episode that's going to be coming to you next week, we got a big lineup next week. We've got a Littoral Zone podcast with Phil Roy, and we've got a big surprise. We're going to be getting back in even deeper into streamers down in the southeast part of the country. Stay tuned for that. Big announcement next week. Click that subscribe button so you get notified. All right, that's all I have for you today. It's fairly early in the morning, nice and quiet here. I'm not sure where you're at, but if it's morning, I hope you're having a good morning. Hope you're enjoying your beverage. Maybe that's a hot cup of coffee or a cup of tea. Maybe you're on the Vice right now. I'm not sure where you are, but no matter where you are in this country, in North America or the world, appreciate you for stopping in today and look forward to seeing you and talking to you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.